Now, you know how I like to discuss films that probably most people have never even heard of. Mainly because I like people to hear of some things sometimes when I watch things that nobody's ever heard of. Speaking of something nobody's ever heard of, we have the Frankenstein theory. I doubt many people have even heard of this one, but if you have, then good on you, because it's actually pretty interesting. This film is like the Blair Witch meets Frankenstein meets Bigfoot-ish, something like that. It's a found footage kind of camera. It does make a lot of cuts and things like that, different from traditional found footage types of things, but it's, for the most part, found footage type of aspect and if you don't like that type of filmmaking techniques, that's fine, that's completely fair. Your opinions are completely for your own preferences and what you want to watch film wise. For me, I like found footage. I like a bunch of them. There are some that are pretty sleepy, but there are some that are pretty interesting. This one, if you pay attention to the dialogue, it does sound a little bit far-fetched, but that's the great part of crazy conspiracy nuts that like to go out on crazy adventures and end up fighting an actual monster. It ends up being a fun time. The Frankenstein theory is one of those types of things. We have a crazy conspiracy nut guy who has money, who hires a film documentary crew and gets a Canadian Northern Territories explorer to take them up into the Northern Territories to find the Frankenstein creature. Now, the Canadian explorer thinks they're just looking for a bear, but it ends up actually being the creature here. Now, they don't exactly explain how the creature survived for so many centuries or how it even came to America, but it's an interesting type of story. It's an interesting little aspect that you don't want to get too boggled down in semantics to try to explain things. You just want to put it on, listen to them babble, and see if the monster's actually real, and watch how things get dismantled. The best part about this, if you didn't really care for the Blair Witch and you thought, oh, there's nothing happening in the Blair Witch, there's no actual creature, beastie, there is an actual beastie that you look at, that you can actually see. Now, the actual kills are not on screen, obviously. They can't afford that type of special effects. So all of the kills are off screen with some sound showing body parts and screams and all that stuff. But so they don't show anything on camera because obviously they probably couldn't afford to do so. There is at least one actor that you will probably recognize in this film. If you are a fan of the Final Destination series, if you have seen Final Destination 3, then the actor who plays McKinley, he is in this film as the conspiracy guy who thinks that Frankenstein's monster is real and ends up actually finding Frankenstein's monster and ends up meeting a very terrible end. That's usually how these types of found footage go, is that everybody dies in the found footage movie. But that's the fun part about it, is you get to watch this crazy little adventure get so out of hand and realize that there's actually a creature out there. And you wonder if he does have any sort of humanity. Maybe he just wants to be left alone, and these people are probably going to just bring more people, and he doesn't want any of that, so he has to make sure that all the people get mauled, and people think it's a bear that did it, but nobody ever ends up going back out here, yada yada yada. So the Frankenstein theory is a pretty fun time for that aspect, and it is also going to be a dollar bin video, because this was from a dollar store. The Frankenstein theory is a decent time if you're into these types of movies. If you're not a found footage fan, then this film isn't going to make you a found footage fan. If you are not a fan of somewhat B-tier films, bad movies, then this film isn't going to make you a fan of B-tier bad movies. You have to already be interested in found footage films. You have to already be interested in the B-budget type films to be interested in the Frankenstein theory. So if you don't go into this film knowing what to expect and being at least interested in those types of aspects, you're probably not going to be a fan of those things after watching the Frankenstein theory. But if you are interested in it, you might actually end up finding the Frankenstein theory pretty interesting.